the mind that needs to first of all be rebranded.
It said it's going to be putting Nigerian labor, Nigeria content and materials first.
If you say Nigeria first and it is just us down here that, are pushing that agenda, it's going to be a big struggle.
Do you think Nigerian firms, Nigerian organizations should start looking at getting their staff involved in this market or buying to keep for their staff?
Within this side, let's also learn citizen diplomacy. See something. This is Souq Business Landscape.
Hello and welcome to your show. Welcome to that particular regular programming we are doing every morning by 8:10. It happened to be 8 minutes past 8:10. We apologize for that. My name is Chooks, John Rogers Chooks. Today on SBL, Souq Business Landscape, we'll be looking at vaccines. You heard me. Not just vaccines for children, vaccines for adult, vaccines that it concerns Nigeria. What are the shortfalls? What's causing it? Why are we having rampant debt that we are not being able to explain? We're going to talk about that. We'll also go to the state and look at tariff. Tariff cannot stop. It hits up, down, center. What are the companies that are right now experiencing it? Who is it hitting hard? What sort of policies are nations using either to bypass, fight back, or say what they want to say without saying anything? We also talk about Dangote. There are a lot of stories coming from that particular end, and ask ourselves some particular questions. Who is going to join next? Who is going to next be the billionaire that will salvage Africa? A whole lot is going to be said on this table today. We'll discuss, we'll agree, we'll disagree, and want to hear from you. It shouldn't only come from this side. Go on our platforms, Souq TV, Souq News, and drop your comments. Join us in the argument. Join us in I agree, I don't agree. Let's talk. Today, it's that beautiful day, and I have the best set of people to vibe with on this table. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please join me as I introduce to you, starting from my right for the first time. Let's take him first. The Oracle has to set the pace for today. Dr. Dahosa, you're welcome to SBL.
Good morning, choose great Nigeria.
You're welcome, sir. He's seriously waiting to start this conversation. Now, let's go to the extreme left. He's not a leftist, but the fair one is here. Priye, you're welcome to SBL.
Good morning, Chooks. Good morning, Lagos. Good morning, Nigerians. It's nice to be here again.
Then, very close on my side, to the left too, the knight himself. Olumide, you're welcome.
Good morning, Chooks. Good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, Africa. It's great to be here.
Good. So we are not going to waste any of your time. We're just going to a very short break. When we get back, we'll start our first story of the day. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Take Nigeria because it's the mind that needs to first of all be rebranded.
It said it's going to be putting Nigerian labor, Nigeria content and materials first.
If you say Nigeria first and it is just us down here that, are pushing that agenda, it's going to be a big struggle.
Do you think Nigerian firms, Nigerian organizations should start looking at getting their staff involved in this market or buying to keep for their staff?
Within this side, let's also learn citizen diplomacy. See something. This is Souq Business Landscape.
Welcome back. Now, health, economy, vaccine access crisis hits Nigeria. That is the headline. But now let's get straight to it. Now, more than 14 million children worldwide missed life-saving vaccines in the past year. That is just between 2024, 2025, with Nigeria topping that particular chart. Not a good one. 2.1 million zero-dose Nigerian children. You heard me right. Now, those who did not receive even a single shot, 2.1 million. This is according to the new immunization coverage data released by the World Health Organization and UNICEF. Other countries with high numbers include India, Sudan, Ethiopia, and Afghanistan, while 115 million infants globally received at least one dose of diphtheria, tetanus, and pertussis vaccines. Nearly 20 million missed at least one dose. A major setback to global immunization goals. Now, experts have warned that this trend poses a serious risk to human capital, development, and long-term economic growth, particularly in countries battling with fragile health systems, shrinking budgets, and conflict. UNICEF went ahead with who to stress that investment in healthcare infrastructure and community trust is urgent as misinformation and supply disruptions continue to threaten decades of progress in vaccine coverage. Now, when we talk vaccines, most people might really not take it serious. Why? Because in Nigeria, over time, our government has done good. For those in Nigeria, you will agree with me that for years, as long as you can remember, there are health centers, majorly primary health centers, where you are advised and instructed, go there after birth of the children, for those less than 5 years, and get them immunized. And for those that go for this immunization, it's free, which means the country has done good all this while. But now, there is a snag to this. We've suffered over 25 million deaths for children less than 5. Now, this is something we have to avoid. Worldwide, it's about yearly 5 million children less than 5 every single year. And Nigeria accounts for a high number of this particular percentage. This is where we have an issue. For Nigeria, we have a partnership where financing for vaccines has always happened. That is between the Gavi partnership, the other UNICEF, and international organizations. Now, they bring some chalk, Nigeria brings most chalk. But as we speak right now, we've had this deficit, major deficit between 2023, 2024, 2025. And that's what we'll be talking about here on this table. That is going to start our discussion on this table. Now, for those that are wondering, we are not producing vaccines in Nigeria. 5 countries are producing vaccines in Africa. But for Nigeria, population of over 200 million, we are not producing vaccines. Where should we start this discussion?
Well, I think, like they say, necessity is the mother of invention. And I think it's high time that Africa embrace that saying. There's a whole lot that's involved here. Number one, we have the health dimension, of course, that your people are not able to get things as quickly as they can. If it fails in other nations, you are not able to get it done. And number two, there is also the economics of it. The fact that, of course, you are shifting money to create employment somewhere else while your people are averagely unemployed. And so, for me, it is the question to ask, should Africa really, at this juncture, after 60 years of independence, still be asking Western nations to help us produce vaccine? Yeah, if you are trying to, as you rightly have mentioned, trying to partner with other farmers as well, like Aspen, South Africa, Senegal, Ghana, where they are making efforts. But I don't think those efforts are enough. We have too many universities in Nigeria. And I think this is where the challenge is. We have engineering faculties, we have pharmaceutical faculties, all across the place, both privately owned and then publicly owned. And yet we are not able to actually commit resources to say, how do we develop our own internal technology to drive these things? And I keep saying, yes, we have to always rely on Europe or the Americas, but these people didn't bring it from heaven. They were not born with it. Some people invented it. And these are challenges that we must, as a people, have to embrace. Individuals that God has blessed should also be able to partner in this regard. Churches that God has blessed, they should be able to participate in this regard. Mosques that are receiving so much, they should be able to participate and join hands with institutions where we can also pioneer research on the things that are peculiar to us. And I think it is that way we'll be able to eventually guarantee the health and safety of the African man without necessarily have to be dependent on other countries of the world. But I think it's just the right time for Africa to sit down and look at our template and see what we can do to revamp, number one, education, which as we speak is not functional. Certificates are not enough.
Okay, let's keep it on vaccine, because if I let you, you hold somebody to ransom.
Yeah, but it's all connected to the vaccine, because if we have a functional institutions,
okay,
we would not be looking forward to Africa. We should be distributing vaccine, especially in tropical Africa.
Right.
Where yes, by this time. Yeah, we can have a
I will hold you on to that.
Yeah.
And I'm coming back to it. Now, I'm coming to you, Olumide. Now, 2021, the African Center for Disease Control and Prevention, they called that 60% of the vaccines we require in Africa should be produced in Africa by 2040. We are good at setting goals. Now, just like Doctor said, we produce only 0.1% of worldwide vaccines. Now, economically, that is not good for us, because whoever is producing the vaccine is selling it. It doesn't matter if your country gets it for free. Somebody somewhere has paid for it. For Africa right now, Egypt, Morocco, Senegal, South Africa, Tunisia are the only ones producing this 0.1%.
Senegal.
Yes, my brother, Senegal. Now, we suffer, apart from we not even producing, right now we are suffering gross immunization coverage.
Yes.
We have an issue where we are getting it for free thanks to donor agencies and government. Logistics is also done for free. Coverage is also done for free. Storage is also done for free. So why this dependency culture for things that really, really matter?
I think, first of all, we need to look at certain things. If we start to produce our own vaccines, you remember during the COVID-19 pandemic, I think one man came out to say he had some sort of cure for it. What happened to that man? What was the rumors? What were the informations around that man? Did you hear of the man again? So I think we need to first start from ourselves. That if someone says that, okay, I have certain things, why not even try to investigate truly if he has the cure for that? Because if we all just dispel anything that we hear that, Priye says he has found a cure, let's even try and find out, okay, Priye, what is it that you're actually talking about? Let's try and investigate that. I think that is also, we've also witnessed a bit of donor withdrawal, cuts from United States and United Kingdom. That has also affected us. There's also misinformation. If most of the time you see all these health workers, they go from house to house trying to find out that have you immunized your child, and most of them will just shut that down and say they say it in Yoruba that yes, we don't need it and all that. So I think we still also need to create some sort of awareness and also help Nigerians to understand that these vaccines actually mean a lot. Because look at the case of diphtheria. Look at the outbreak. Yes, we give it to Nigeria. When this outbreak comes out, we always swing into action and try and curtail that. But I think preventive measures are also better. So if we want to actually focus on producing our own vaccines, we also need, just like Doc will always say, reintegrate our mind to think Nigeria first.
Okay, think Nigeria first.
Because if tomorrow someone says, I have the vaccine for diphtheria and all that, what is the government's attitude? What is their body language towards that person?
Okay. Now, before we get to that particular body language and the economics, because that's where you want to go to, let me get to you. Now, Nigeria has a co-financing strategy sponsored by the Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance, and this is coming via the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency. Now, we have a shortfall of about $350 million. This is annually, with other international agencies bringing about $230 million.
In production of vaccine.
Procurement, not even production.
Of vaccine.
That's for us on this side now. Olumide has talked about international organizations withdrawing. Yes, it's going to happen because the world is experiencing some crisis. COVID came some years back, and the money they should have given to you has to go to something else. Now we are having a transition from one president to the next president, and there has been a whole lot of things that have happened within the budget because a lot of focus. We budget for healthcare. When it comes to really dispensing that particular budget, we're having shortfalls. And that is one of the things that are affecting vaccination, down to sensitization, down to foot soldiers on ground. In the last 4, 5, 6 months, we've had silent child killer diseases that have crossed Nigeria, to be specific. how do we start getting these shortfalls? How do we start accounting and closing up the gaps for these shortfalls?
Okay, first of all, a proverb that I have made before, time and again, and I'm still going to make again. The Chinese proverb said, the best time to have planted a tree is like 100 years back. And the second best time that is now available for us to plant, if we missed that 100 years back season, is now. To produce a vaccine, the researchers and the tertiary institution, most especially learning institution, need to have this cooperation together because of research and development. And for us to have an effective laboratory where this research and testing are going to take place. And this process will take a period of between 10 to 15 years. So if it takes between 10 to 15 years, and we need to produce a vaccine as a country, when do we start? The thing is, have we even started? Because when we actually counted and pointed the number of countries doing it in Africa and some of the names of these countries, I feel disappointed that we are not in the list and we are supposed to be bailing the cat. The health economy, your specific question was referring to the health economy. How do we make up for these shortfalls? We already have $350 million shortfall annually for procurement. Now that we have a president from the other side who said these monies that normally come through the instrument of USAID has been stopped, and there's not going to be aid for such purposes anymore. I thought by now maybe Ali Pate would have sat down with some of his advisors and say, okay, can we start, even though my predecessors did not start or look at it from this direction? So that after this administration is gone, there would have been work, at least 4 years' work into it. So the next administration can take it up from there. All the tertiary institutions that we have, are we using it? Because most of the time, if we look at all the faculties of medicine, pharmacy, and all of that, some of these projects that even some of the best brain of students, go to write, you know where the projects end up. The man selling roasted meat at the side of the road.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Not all.
Okay, fine, maybe not all, but most of them.
Or they end up just as publications?
Yes, they just end up as publication and they are dropped somewhere and they are trashed as the years go by. So if we're not using that, that means it's obvious that we don't even have confidence in allocating funds to that. And most of the times, if we are waiting for the government, I'm sorry, we'll be disappointed. Because research and development it's an activity and exercise that private institutions are more interested in. Have we created the right ecosystem to bring even the foreign direct investment that we're attracting into the country? Are we attracting any to the health economy that could take up such, task? Because it's a long-term project. And though it's a long-term project, it requires a lot of money to be sunk into the system for them to even have, profit.
Okay.
Are we ready for that?
Are we ready for that? That question, still hold on to that particular question. I'm coming back to you, the Oracle. Now, let's backtrack. Before now, we were able to kick out polio thanks to the Bill Gates Foundation, the Melinda Gates Foundation, UNICEF, and all that. Then we had a trial by, in quote, a particular pharmaceutical company somewhere in the north that caused a lot of disaster.
Yes.
That was swept under the carpet via blackmail. Right now, we are having this same issue whereby any medication that has to go public has to be vetted, and a body outside this country will be the ones to ascertain whether it should be administered or put into commercial use. Now, South Africa had that issue when it came to HIV drugs, if you remember, some years back. Should Africa depend on international bodies for our own solutions?
Well, I don't think Africa necessarily needs to be dependent on foreign countries or external powers to be able to legitimize whatever thing that we are doing. But I think the challenge here is because almost everything we do here is heaped on the door of a government. And because of that, you see government signs and they become party to treaties. And therefore, they are forced by law, by the fact that they have endorsed those treaties to obey the terms of those covenants that they enter into with other foreign nations and institutions. But the challenge I have, which is the point I continue to make, is that the way things are elsewhere. I was reading this morning Rebecca Henderson's book, Reimagining Capitalism in a World on Fire. And one of the things that struck me in that particular book was the way she used the example of Disney to push an argument, what is popularly now called to know as the Mickey Mouse Protection Act, where, of course, Disney had to spend about $2 million to push for the extension of the intellectual property rights with the American Congress. And then, of course, it went through, and like after 5 years, you saw that Disney had made over $1.4 billion on this extension of the property rights on some of the movies that they have made. Now, that's just an example. But there's no nation on earth where you can rely on government to deliberately do things for you. We know how much the farmers in America are putting on pressure on government institutions to make legislations that are favorable to them. But you take that to your environment and what we have. All the pharmaceutical companies that we are having in Nigeria today are only packaging what is produced abroad. And this is where the challenge is. We have so many of them, we can start to count their names. But they're all here, and they are all rebranding whatever thing that is packaged abroad. And they're not even doing anything to see how that they can create a market for what is made locally. That's where the problem is for us in Africa. That we are expecting that government must do everything. Private individuals must be in sync. I am expecting that these big farmers in Nigeria that are even owned here locally should be having chairs in institutions, in our universities, in our polytechnics, to see that we are funding certain research on certain area without necessarily waiting for government. And I think that is why it's done elsewhere. And there's no magic wand. America doesn't put money to university. Private individuals and citizens put money in the university to develop a product for a particular industry so that they can sell. But here, everybody is saying, oh, government is not doing well, government is not doing well, and we're not even looking at the issue. Now, if the companies themselves who are operating in that sector, the pharmaceutical sector in Nigeria, are actually putting a lot of effort, some of all these things that you're talking about, or people coming from elsewhere to come and create some distortions, we wouldn't even there in the first place. We don't need to even be waiting for people. I'm asking, many that are big gates from America out here, we have people who are very ready here, who can as well be the people arrowhead to drive this process and get us out of the challenges that we face. But unfortunately, it's not so for us.
Unfortunately, it's not so for us. Now, we are looking for solutions. Aside solutions, we also want to be the ones exporting vaccines outside and making the money, because that is a major earner. During the COVID era, the US government has to sign out a whole lot of indemnity to those companies that were making this particular vaccines. So no matter what happened to you at the end of the day, we're not holding them accountable. We saw vaccines from beginning to the end developed in less than 2 years. And it went into use in that same period of time. We also saw people that came up with solutions in Africa, and they were shouted down, thanks to not just government, but the name of Big Pharma. When is Africa going to rise up and say our solutions are our solutions?
I think that's a big question, but I'm also looking at a situation whereby we can also increase domestic funding for these vaccines. How? For instance, what we can do is set up some sort of a vaccine or trust fund whereby oil revenues, telecom levies, diaspora
That
levies.
individual countries or Africa?
I'm talking of Nigeria.
Okay, Nigeria. Okay.
Yes, so it will be earmarked for that. For instance, if you look at Rwanda, they introduced sin tax on tobacco and alcohol, which was used to fund health programs.
Okay.
We can come up with that. Just like Doc also said, private investors can also partner with universities, but in doing so, we also have to look at these universities and whether they are actually well established, well equipped to carry out these research, so that if the chunk of that responsibility is not put back on the private sector also.
Okay, like you were talking about the universities. AstraZeneca was with Oxford. Oxford developed AstraZeneca. What is it called? The pharmacy company took the patent. I don't know. See where it's going to. The same thing if you go to Texas. The same thing.
So
NASA,
obviously they sponsor the research and development.
Yes. So somebody developed, somebody else took the patent. Same thing if you go to NASA, if you go to Texas. The university there, they are the ones in the forefront for the research for any of these fields, any of these sectors. Like Doc will say, we have a lot of universities issuing certificates. Why are we not having specific universities? It mustn't be all of them. Others can issue the certificate. 4 or 5 could be research-based universities. Why are we not focusing on that?
So, Chooks, it is easy. These universities, look at the universities and look at how much it requires to engage in such task, to explore the materials, to source for the materials, taking them to the lab. You must have an effective and efficient lab system where a consistent laboratory testing in different stages will have to be carried out for a period of years. And
Let me just
hold on,
No, what I'm saying is that, you see, we'd like to excuse a lot in Africa.
no, it's not excuse. So I'm going somewhere. That's why you should
I understand
allow me
that.
to
No,
know.
I don't want you to get there before so that you can add it to your conversation.
Okay.
Because people always think that, yes, nobody is expecting a university to produce a vaccine. All that is expected is for them to pioneer research. Now, when you pioneer research, you take it to the company, and the company commercializes whatever thing you produce.
You can also take it to the government.
If you want, if government wants to,
Yes.
but you don't necessarily in a free market economy. You don't necessarily have to go through government. You can go
For some particular research
you can,
and security risks,
you can
have to go through
yes,
the
actually do a research, because no, it's believed that the university doing the research is ethical enough to understand that they're not going to do something that is inimical to the health of society. But what it is that it has been proven, scientifically tested by government agencies, because we are not going to produce without SON, you are not going to produce without NAFDAC if it's the case of Nigeria. So all of this will pass through government agencies. So that's okay. I have done this. I'm taking it to Beecham to help me commercialize it. So of course you own the patent. But the point here is the fact that all universities don't have laboratory. In the last 10 years, over 6 trillion from TED fund has passed them through university without laboratory.
Okay. So
what is
How do we explain
What
it?
is that 6 billion for?
What are they using it for?
Okay,
so because
so
you prioritize the things that you need. This research side is not a priority to the universities. If it's a priority, the little fund that is not enough that comes into the university should actually be channeled into things that can actually make them commercially viable in the long run.
great. So, Chooks, we all know when you go to these institutions. Now, I am not saying they do not have laboratories. Where I was heading to was that the laboratories that we have in these universities, they are not the kind of laboratories, they're the kind of laboratories that where you have 100, 200 level students go to for laboratory exercise and lab test and all of that. Some of them don't have electric power. Some of them don't have seats to sit on. Some of them don't have the necessary basic materials for year 1, year 2 students to carry out those common basic medical laboratory tests where they use lizards, mice, and all those things. In the higher institution, they don't have it. We are talking about vaccine that is directed and specific towards some of the health challenges that infants will be experiencing.
Okay.
Now, as I understand,
let's hold on. Let's look at it from this angle. Now, of the over 100 universities in Nigeria, we are not looking at the 100 universities. Give us 5, give us 6,
give us 10, at the most
give us
10.
2. I don't know if you understand. Give us 2. Okay. 80% of a lot of research is coming out from these 2. That works.
That is where I'm going to.
That's what we want to see.
Choose.
So if you can come up with a research-based project, and also, okay, this is what we've come up with. We've done it first year, second year. It's easier for people to now follow and say, okay, good, let's go to that particular place. They have a solution. Okay, we have this particular problem. Let's see if they can provide solutions. That is what we should be thinking of.
Yes, I know, Chooks. That is right, and that's very correct. The universities need to start a process, pioneer that, but they should equally, they will first of all go to the government. For me, because I don't think the big farmers that we have in our country at the moment and the private, if you look at most of the portfolios where the private investment are coming from, I don't see them as people who are interested in this. But you know, if government can tell you as an institution, because you have started the primary phase, that look, the government can call 5, 4 XYZ companies that can start the process, that can last for the next 3 years. Government can equally refer another organization because it's going to be capital intensive to continue from the other place where other institutions have started with regards to research and development to continue this process. And we're not just talking about continuing this process. We're talking about upgrading the existing labs that we have on ground that must have been seen that have this capacity to take up this challenge. And not only that, if there will be need for us to erect and build new ones, we don't think our universities have that financial capacity to even run that, because if you go to some of these universities that we are talking about, some of the basic things that we have there on ground are even deficient. Okay. Years have gone by where maintenance have eluded those infrastructure.
That's bad management.
That's
internal.
You call it bad management, but they will tell you, they will preach the existence of fund is not there. It's not something that can be traceable.
Hold on. Early this year, when the immigration issue came out and Trump was looking for every means possible to stop mass immigration and push mass deportation, university system in the US were also hit. Now, he specifically spoke to Harvard and said, stop admitting foreign students. And then Harvard came up with their own solutions and started protesting. Then we got to know that there were specific funds that were coming in yearly from the US government to Harvard. And he said he was going to cut that funding. Now, let's look at our own school system this way. Can we have a situation where government can say, okay, let's look at Ibadan, let's look at Unizik, let's look at Ife because you went there. Okay, let's look
Ibadan
at
because you went there.
Ekuma. And okay, they are working on this, they are working on that. Let's set out this particular set of funds and push that particular research.
Great.
Can we? There are chairs in universities already. What are they doing with it?
Initial process.
Is it something that is doable?
Yes, it is.
What is stopping it?
Well, it's a whole lot. Politicking, and it's a whole lot.
Government. Okay. Government.
No, not you.
No. Why must you force him to talk about it?
Listen. In 2006,
I don't want to go into politics. I don't want to go into politics.
I was facilitating a training course in the University of Ibadan. And there were about 6 or 5 vice chancellors who were in that meeting, and several other professors. And then, of course, there was this professor from Osun State University. He asked me a question. And he said, tell me your view. Do you feel that every professor should be paid equally? And I told him, no, professors should not be paid equally. Professors should attract funds to their universities. And based on their contribution, they should be remunerated. And the man jumped up from his seat and said, for the first time, I've heard somebody who says something. And a lot of people are lazying away, and they want to end the same thing with the people that are working. Many of our professors cannot access international journals, let alone even attract funding that are available everywhere.
Can I hold you to this? Now, let's look at, we have institutes We have research institutes, from raw material research institute to pharmaceutical research institute to some veterinary medicine research institute. What are these places doing?
You see, what are those places doing? And this is where we need to actually, I am an advocate of a good Nigeria. But the problem I've found everywhere is that the fact that people feel that a Nigeria will be good until you have one man who is able to steer things. And I feel that's really very weak way to look at things. What are the institutes doing? They always complain that there are no money. But even the little money that comes to them is spent on overhead. So in the area of research. So this is a problem. So people, the Bible says, where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. If your treasure is to develop a pioneer research, you can decide to be without cloth and shoe and a car to ensure that that project succeeds. But if you value, what they call them now, those kind of beautiful clothes, designers. Designers. Designer shoe, designer chain, designer suit, designer car. That's where your resource will go to. And the other aspect that will develop your life, you don't put resources into it. And I think this is a problem. Whether it's in the institutes, whether it's in our universities and colleges of education, this is exactly the same way. And that is because we have alternative. And what is this alternative? People will come from elsewhere to come and do it for us.
Okay.
So we are tied hugely to the apron string of people. So what has happened in this other country was that they had an emergency, they had nowhere to run to. That's why I started this conversation by saying necessity is always the mother of invention. Once alternative closes, then people have to fight for survival.
Okay.
And that fight for survival is what is going to pioneer innovation, creativity, that will take us out of this appendage to SY colonial powers.
Okay.
Earlier on,
hold on. Let's talk about the fallout of this particular vaccine gap that we are having right now. For those that are in the know and for those that are also looking at this particular issue, for some time now we've had hospitals grapple with mass influx of children that are falling ill, and we are losing a whole lot of them to diphtheria, to tetanus, to a whole lot of we have a generation of children that are growing up deaf. Vaccines that have been missed. We have a lot of children that are, we see polio coming back. We've hit polio out. These are things that are going to start showing up in the near future, apart from those that are that we've lost already. And it's going to tell on the budget of the health budget. Why? Because the monies that we've budgeted right now won't be enough, because we have more problems that we did not envisage, or because we didn't tackle what we were supposed to tackle. Now let's look at it. How are we going to start grappling with these issues, because they are coming up?
Well, the absence of these vaccines. First of all, I want to refer to the Serum Institute, which is the biggest manufacturer in India, and it's a global supplier of vaccines, even to the UK and other countries. So if we want to get the shortfall, I know that Doc is saying, what does he call it? Is it denial is the mother of invention? So
necessity is the mother
yes.
of all invention.
Now that we know that what we're expecting from, you say, cut off, and we are having a shortfall of $350 million, like you said, annually, the best thing for us to do to cushion this effect, to make sure that we're making a plan that will have a lasting effect on our health economy, is to partner institutions like this, the Gavin and the Serum Institute.
We are partnering with them already.
No, I'm not talking about procurement.
This 250,
I'm not
230
talking
million.
about procurement.
Okay.
I'm talking about having those laboratories, those infrastructure on ground to initiate the process of both research and development of vaccines locally.
The question I will ask you, do you think they are interested in that?
Of course, they will be interested because
Are you sure?
they will be interested because we are talking about the spread of
The
big
what-
farmers
what-
who are
what-
spread to the whole
they are
of
paying-
Europe,
they are paying you
who
to
are
buy-
spreading to the
Let's-
whole of Africa,
I don't know if you understand.
and they
where I'm
have the
going to talk.
patents.
Now they are paying you. They are bringing the money down so that you buy from the big farmers in their own countries. Mind you,
They can as well own the one here, because that's the biggest way to own it. Yes.
they can as well.
Yes,
What happened to the
because
big farmers on the other side?
some of this, it's obvious. Is it not obvious that we lack that motivation? And I'm not going to, yes, I've excused the government initially, but I'm not going to completely excuse them because they need to bail the cart.
Okay, now hold on. Talk into the space of the problem we have right now. The kids that have not been vaccinated, and the extra drag is having on the budget now, based on aside debt, the resurgence of epidemics.
We
that
have a looming health crisis on our hands now. That's what we have. And that's what we should first of all prioritize to solve. And if it's going to take us to revive our procurement channels to get the needed vaccines, to attend to these 2.1 million children that have not been vaccinated and their lives are, that's what we need to attend to now.
Okay.
Because those children...
Olumide, thank you very much, Priye. Olumide, now let's look at sensitization. For those within Lagos, congratulations. The Lagos State government has made it possible for you to walk into any primary health care facility and get vaccinated. Yet people are not taking this opportunity. People are not utilizing it. They even put people on the street. They put soldiers they put people, according to foot soldiers, on the street, and they go house to house. How can we get
soldiers, not military officers?
How can we get people to just come out and take this vaccination?
Sensitization, you can also go through them by their local traditional rulers. I think the local government will also come in here, their councillors. Through sensitization, the traditional rulers can also get to these people, because whether we like it or not, there's also misinformation. What information do they have about this vaccine? Do they actually know that this vaccine would actually help their children in the long run? Because, I mean, I would always refer back to what happened during COVID-19. We had so many things. Even during Ebola, we heard about the salt, bathing with salt and all that. All those misinformations, rather, it will demarket these vaccines. So we also need to try as much as possible to sensitize them, not via town hall meetings and all that. Let them also know. Now, earlier on, you were asking why the government could not, if the government can actually fund this research and all that. There are about 5 bills for new universities. And you wonder, so when
Where
I
will
said...
the fund come from?
No, not even where would the fund for...
To start those
You're
universities.
thinking of establishing 5 new universities. What about the existing ones? Have you been able to maintain them? That's why I said I didn't want to go into politics.
Now, Doc, let's talk money. Vaccine production is big business. And those that are there already have patents that they are not going to share. They will refuse to share it. Where and how can Africa come into this business?
Well, I think we can. Africa can come into the business the day we throw away our racial inferiority and start to believe in ourselves that we have, we can do a lot with ourselves. As I was reading Rebecca's job this morning, one of the things that was ringing on my head, because I didn't even know that we're going to be having conversation around this, and he was actually saying why people talk about capitalism, that of course the problem with capitalism is that they don't share the pie of cake very well, and the problem of socialism is the fact that they don't even know how to bake the cake in the first place. So you are having a problem here that the owner of capital is saying, look, what is important to us is value for our shareholder. And whatever thing that this costs to the society is really immaterial. And one of the arguments that she made in that book was the fact that most of the hidden costs of some of all these things are never calculated, and they're actually not in the price of the product. So the capitalists go ahead to chase profit, make a whole lot of things. And he gave an example of a particular farmer who was actually depending on a renewable source of energy, but was actually contributing over 400 tons of carbon here to the society. And we are looking at an average of about 24,000 people who are dying annually from that emission that is not calculated and nobody is paying for it, because all that these people are all after is how to make value and profit for their shareholders. So this is what is here. Now, when you even look at some of all these arguments that we're talking about, I saw a professor in one of the Nigerian topmost medical school who was actually arguing the other time. We had a meeting, and he was saying that a lot of all these fall down, dying that you see here, a lot of them are connected to the vaccine that a lot of people take toward that same COVID end. And somebody said, have you found a research on that? And he said, yes, of course, we are pioneering research. And some of all these things, and nobody is actually knowing that what are the side implications of some of these vaccines that we are even putting in our body. You see, because we don't look at that side of it. People just look at the head dimension, that this is good for a while. What are the net implications or the side effect or the contra effect of some of these things that we are thinking? Who here is able to actually tell us that, look, this is genuine enough and it doesn't come with any side effect? Because like somebody had one argue.
We are not producing it.
Yes, like somebody has one argue.
Taking it
yes, of course, the big pharma had to be in business.
So now how can we get into that business?
And whatever thing that will keep them in business is what they are going to do. So they're not going to give you a permanent solution.
So, Doc, how can we get into that business?
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. So we must deliberately, as a people, see, I take on government. I don't even believe in government in the first place. I feel that individual. I'm a free market thinker. I believe that individual citizens must begin to take necessary steps to do societies. I knew when my father was alive, this eternal thing we are talking about, he was providing cure to people. He didn't need anybody license to provide cure. Those who came, they were healed and they come back to say, thank you, sir. So if people find solutions.
How can we package that solution
so if people,
for mass production?
Yeah, this is the point, because the institutions of learning in Nigeria, especially the pharmacology department and the pharmacy department in Nigeria, must deliberately look for our locals who have solutions. And there are some solutions in Africa. We cannot ignore it. All of us grew up in our villages. I knew what my father would give to me when I have a stomach ache. There is no clinic in 100 kilometers from my community. And we are not dying. So where are all these solutions? How are we going to benefit from these solutions? Well, it's not until we go to purchase what is made from abroad that will make us well. So our university must deliberately get into our community and see what solutions that are having there and how do we modernize it with the aim of technology to ensure that these things, we can replicate them and people can have access to them and it can even become very cheaper. So once we do that and it's becoming effective in terms of use here, other people will come for it.
And we are in business. I want to say thank you very much. That's our first story for today. We'll go straight to the second one. Remember, for vaccination, please vaccinate your children. And if there's a child around you, please make sure that kid is vaccinated. We don't want to hear stories tomorrow. Let's get straight to what's happening with infrastructure investment. Thanks to one man, Dangote. You heard it very well. Now, Dangote has moved to build Nigeria's deepest seaport ever. Now, that's still on the papers. Africa's richest man, Aliko Dangote, he has submitted formal application to begin construction of a new Atlantic seaport in Olokola, that's in Ogun State, aimed at boosting the logistics and export capacity of his expanding industrial empire. Note this word, his, in capital letter, put it in quote. It's a personal business. Now, located roughly 100 kilometers from his Lagos-based refinery and fertilizer complex, the proposed port is expected to rival the existing facility in Lagos. We're talking about the Chinese-backed Lekki Deep Sea Port. The multi-billion-dollar project will support the export of goods such as fertilizer, petrochemicals, liquefied natural gas. The plan includes building pipelines from the Niger Delta to Lagos to feed gas export operations. Dangote's goal is to develop Nigeria's biggest, deepest seaport, positioning it as a strategic logistics hub while unlocking new private sector investment. Now, despite past tensions with local authorities over the Olokola site, the project is now back on track, which means it's not just a formal paper submission. Something is happening on the ground. Your Excellencies, distinguished gentlemen, we are back with Dangote. We were talking about vaccine just some few seconds away. And now we are having someone that is doing the talk. Another Seaport, less than 100 kilometers away from Lekki Deep Seaport. And this is coming from Dangote. Now let's ask ourselves these particular questions. As a private businessman, what is he seeing that others have refused to see?
Well, I will say for him, for this industrial colossus, he's been on the side where the system, to an extent, has favored him. Even though, yeah, after building the refinery, say, had I known, I wouldn't have jumped into it. He's jumping to another one now. I hope we're not going to get the same statement. He has a very good facility. He's considering Ogun State, right? And no, there's been conversation about the location where he chose for Ogun State, but he's considering Ogun State because Lagos currently has an infrastructure that, to an extent, supports that kind of business. So even though he's citing it in Ogun State, it's not quite far from Lagos. So it's going to enjoy that proximity and take advantage of the existing infrastructure because, and that is going to be quite less than 50% of how it's going to benefit him. But he's positioning himself. I'd said times without number. For me, I want to completely take a different dimension for this conversation. I tend to see where critical infrastructure that contributes immensely to national development, cited in specific regions of the country. I think it should be dispersed. I know...
we are talking about Dangote here.
I know.
Not government money.
I know.
So where are you coming with your dispassion?
Government. I know.
So
very much aware.
Let's talk about Dangote.
Yes, we're talking about him. And I am... That's why I said I want to take a different position in this conversation completely.
Okay, you're taking us away from this conversation.
I'm not taking us away.
Okay.
I'm saying a different position. Because I'm not going to dwell, I don't want to dwell so much on why he's establishing here, how much he has seen, what he has seen, the economic potential, and all of that. If we're talking about economic potential, I want to refer, okay, from Ogun State, maybe because Ogun State is feasting from the crumbs that fall from the table of Lagos by way of industrialization. Yes, I see that.
Okay, now.
Because we're talking about spillage. I want to focus on the South-South because they have existing infrastructure. And why existing authorities in that place have not been able to influence industrialists in the capacity of Dangote. That is where I was going. To come cite this sort of critical infrastructure in that place.
Okay.
Why are we so individualistic in that area of town? And we are talking about development. I really hope, and with Dangote, for this project to materialize, because I know the level of development is going to bring to that state. But you know what? It's going to consolidate the existing infrastructure, that gives birth to production, that gives birth to markets, that gives birth to development in the southwestern part of the country. And I just want the South-South and the other parts in the South that these things are being cited to also get some of these crumbs. And my grouse is with the functionaries that are in government, that have the capacity to speak to and convince some of these industrialists to come develop that part of town.
Because the problem is that you have refused to go to your local government to go contest election so that you can also contribute to whatever thing that is going there or is not going well.
But you see, were you looking at the time that you should be...
The doctor is taking pleasure in flogging me left, right, and center. It's okay.
He should go and test his popularity in his local government and see if he's able to get to the... You see, but the problem is the fact that there's a whole lot of politicization of all these issues. initially, Dangote didn't intend to get into refining business. When in 2006, Obasanjo was about to leave, he mooted the idea of selling off the refineries.
Okay.
And Dangote and Otedola actually put money to buy that refinery. And when the new government came in 2007, they said it was a critical national asset, that they would not allow it to be sold to private individuals. And of course, they bought them back. And Dangote, since 2007, vowed that it was going to build a refinery that would surpass what government had. So you see, from 2007 to 2024, that plan has been on. And this was initially to be sited in Ondo State, not even in Lagos. But the politicians in Lagos, in Ondo State,
did not see the vision.
So they see what it wasn't. So, but Lagos created the ecosystem, and then it came to Lagos. And then, in over about 6 or 7 or 8 years back, this idea of this deep seaport was cited. And he was to do it in the same Ogun. And the then governor in power refused him to create the ecosystem for this to happen. And just last year, we saw that the current governor said, look, you started something here. Why not let us complete it? So you see, this is what Claude Ake has said, how politics becloud the thinking of individuals.
Are we going to call it politics or just be specific in calling it?
It's politics.
Hold on. Now we call certain things politics and forget that some people are shrewd.
No. You see, politics is who gets what, when, and how. And it also depends on what you want to get.
Can I ask a question? Are we talking about politics when it comes to personal business?
Yeah, of course, because it's also a determinant. What you are saying here is
somebody's personal money and business.
It has nothing to do with your personal issue. It's just the fact that we are seeing a government now that is interested in private businesses who believe that businesses need to prosper for the society to prosper, and this is why we are seeing a whole lot of things.
Can I ask a question? Can a government ever prosper without private and entrepreneurs prospering? Is it possible?
No. What I'm saying to you
is it possible?
See, Chooks,
can we go there? Can a government prosper without individuals, businesses, and entrepreneurs prospering?
Yeah, but that is what the point I'm making. For business for prosperity. Good. See, government is a faceless entity. Good. The people is the government. So now it's only when businesses are prospering. No, just listen. You just listen. Okay. It's only when businesses are prospering that government will make more taxes to be able to create the social effect that will make society livable. Now, but what we have seen and the way politics has been positioned in our country is the fact that I am saying I want to do some good things for you. Let me give you a very practical example. When I was in my leadership institute, I was training, and it was meant that we as students of that institute must do practical projects that will impact society before we are graduated from the leadership institute. And I took a secondary school in Lagos here for my project. And I went to the secondary school and said to the head teacher, this is my mission and I have a project that I want to deliver. And the woman said, how will it benefit my school? And I said, it's benefiting your school in every ramification because these are your students. He said, no, they are not my children. Their parents should go and take care of them.
So how will it benefit me?
As an individual.
Good.
So
are we going to call that politics?
Yes, of course it is.
Is it politics or somebody is just being
It's politics. So
we need to differentiate somebody's criminal mind and politics.
No, see what you are.
I don't understand where I'm going.
No. What you are failing to see here is the fact that, and that is why there's a scientific definition of politics.
Can I ask a question? Is it normal?
From David Easton, he said is the authoritative allocation of scarce resources.
Okay.
Now, Aaron said it is.
Must we agree?
No. Harold Lasky says Politics is who gets what, when, and how.
Who gets what
From
who?
Who gets what, when, and how. You have not written a book on politics, so you don't have the authority to
He doesn't also have the authority.
he has done a lot of search on this, so you don't have that authority. So when you get to that point,
let's dwell on
that is the point I'm making. What I'm saying to you is that there's a resource to be allocated, or there is something to be shared, and somebody is saying, "This is how I want it shared." That's political. So I want this chunk of it for me. I don't want it for this guy. So what you're saying is
that's okay.
Yes, that is what it is, and that's what
you've not
that is why
is that
no, just
okay?
what I'm saying to you, whether you like it or not, everybody has since even Dr. Onadi Azikiwe of blessed memory said politics is no church. It's an amoral fit. There's no right, there's no wrong.
There's no right, there's no wrong.
There's no wrong. The point I'm making on the Lekki Deep Station is the fact that you have a governor who feels that, look, this project will be of more value to me than his predecessor perceived it.
Okay.
And he's putting a whole lot of energy to create the enabling environment
to get it
get this thing done. And all the legal restriction that the previous administration has put in terms of getting that project on course, he has removed them. And he said, you come. And you imagine that the biggest port in Africa is created in Ogun State, and what that means. And almost everybody is betting there, and the kind of resources that is going to come to Ogun State in the future. So why the past man is thinking about the now, that I can sell this thing immediately, but now you have somebody who is
thinking
envisioning the future. And this is the difference between the two personnel. So the project has been on the pipeline. But my real worry is the fact that those who are in their Papa Port, for example, need to sit up. Because otherwise, the business will go to where the new deep seaport is. And even the Lekki deep seaport will need to have to tighten their bed so that the advantage will come to woman. And of course, by design, he's the one who has the product. Now he has the yam and he has the knife. Because fertilizer and petroleum products will be moving through that port. And then, of course, he's able to actually create a supply chain that, of course, will favor his business eventually.
Okay. Hold on. Let me come to Lumide. Now, China has over 200 ports. Away from China, they are building. They are on a mission because they know what they are trying to achieve.
To take over the world.
They have one not far from us here. The same deep port that is less than 100 kilometers from where Dangote is building his. Now, for the first time, we are seeing an individual, a business entity, an African Nigerian business entity, getting down and saying, okay, no, it's not supposed to be like this. Let's build this port. What will you advise people from other regions to do? Should they still keep folding their hands and waiting for government to develop the port in Warri, in Port Harcourt, in Sapele?
I think this is a wake-up call. Earlier on, Dr. referred to Kromale as not being able to spearhead is a community by, vying for a position. But I think, yes, we've seen journalists who
became politicians.
Exactly. So I think it's a wake-up call for the South and the Niger Delta regions to try as much as possible to see how they can also attract certain investments to their own quota. I mean, whatever it took Dangote to say that, okay, Ogun State is I would not say it's not all politics. Maybe there might have been a little bit of politicking going on there to have convinced him to come to Ogun State and all that. But it's a wake-up call, basically, for other Niger Delta regions that if Lagos is taking the forefront, Ogun State is now stepping in.
Yeah.
What about... Well, Ogun State is my town.
You don't expect anything less. Olumide is from Ogun State.
Good, so let him
be texting Dangote that, please come.
Yes,
we receive you wholeheartedly. Great, and I want him to come. But you see, Governor Mba recently erected or floated an airline
Yes.
for his state. So what was he looking at? He was looking at the 3 million tourists and business and students and other people who were traversing that part of town, that look, we need to have this, there's a market. We can have something that can cater to this, and this could be another form of IGR to the government. And looking at it very well, you see that he's deploying local personnel to head and run this because of the indigenous knowledge and capacities that has been trained abroad, and now they can come and run this facility for profit. I have a problem because the people from my part of, I'm not being emotional and I'm not trying to, but because they have this infrastructure. In fact, this Warri port, the Port Harcourt port, and other ports that we have in the southern part of the country are even older than some of the ports we have on this side of the country. What happened?
Are you asking me?
No, I'm asking a rhetorical question. Okay. What happened? Why Ogun State?
Yes, Ogun State. Yes, now, Doug, let me come back to you. Now, yes, Ogun State. The president said he's building $1 trillion economy. And that is not possible if we don't have this infrastructure in place. Now we are seeing them springing up. Dangote petrochemical, the fertilizer company, now the Seaport. Lagos State is also talking about building another seaport. Should we be looking and asking and telling people to build more, because we can't have that sort of economy without having the major export and import of major goods, and these ports are not going to be enough. So what should we be looking at infrastructure-wise to achieve this particular vision of the president?
Well, I think for me, it's just basic principles. I read